Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and it is July already, halfway through July, no less. Well, last month was extraordinarily busy, and this month is proving to be just as busy. And actually, there's some annoying real-life stuff that actually has happened as of just last week, as of this recording. The AC went out, which means I couldn't record, and basically meant I got to be miserable until the bloody thing got fixed. But thankfully it is, hence why I am recording. And so, I lost a week. But ultimately, such is life. As of next week, as of this recording, when this goes up, it's going to be, I believe, a Saturday, so the following week. There's going to be the number 4 Mark I Lee Enfield review. I've wanted to do that review for months now, and finally, it's going to bloody well get done, unless it rains, or something else happens. But assuming it doesn't rain, or anything else happens, that review will finally be done, because essentially, in order to do the number 4 Mark I Lee Enfield review, I need to take the rifle to the rifle range, which is outside, which means it's vulnerable to climatic changes. But assuming it doesn't rain or anything like that, that will be done. Now, as for Quake 4, that will be done the following week. Now, one thing about that, though, is I have the Steam version, but the Steam version doesn't work right. I get really crap graphics. There's a variety of fixes for it, but I'm going to be lazy and simply use my DVD copy of Quake 4. One interesting thing to note about Quake 4 is that's actually the game I got, or actually that's the whole reason why I got an Xbox 360, is because I wanted to play that bloody game. So I'm a pretty big fan of it, although for a little while I wasn't for some undefined reason. It's just one of those hate period games that I didn't like for literally no reason. Also, for July, we're going to have 2 live streams. I'm going to try to do more of those. There's going to be a fan appreciation live stream on, well, Wednesday as of this recording. Wednesday of the next week as of this recording. What day would that be? Whatever the case may be, I'm going to release a announcement video. And there's going to be a live stream the following week of Resident Evil Director's Cut. I dug out my old copy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the PlayStation 3 and I'm going to do a live stream of this game using the PS3. So basically it will be as legit as it's humanly possible. And I actually was testing the whole setup a few days ago. And my God, ladies and gentlemen, does legit Resident Evil look really pixelated? Man, and that's in like 1080 right there, because that's coming out HDMI. That's just crazy. I've definitely been spoiled by EPSXE. Let's see. So Prey is going to be kicked over to August. Yeah, it's taken a while, but would you rather me hurry it along and have it be crap, or would you rather me take my time and have it be good? So after Prey, I think we will finally get on to Half-Life. I've talked about this in some previous vlogs and in some Let's Plays, where I don't like Half-Life 2 nearly as much as I do Half-Life 1. Basically, Half-Life 2, and this is something that's going to get me into so much trouble, like it's going to be downvoted, there's going to be so many negative comments. Having really seriously thought about Half-Life 2 compared to Half-Life 1, Half-Life 2 is basically a tech demo showing off the gravity gun. It might as well just be Gravity Gun the game, because that's pretty much its go-to thing, and it's just so barely connected with Half-Life 1, it's not even funny. But I'm going to get all into that, and I'm going to get all the negative comments. You know, Half-Life 2 isn't a bad game, it's just not as good as Half-Life, but whatever the case may be. After that, we're planning on me and myself, and I, starring Jim Carrey. But anyway, Jim Carrey is not going to be assisting me this time. But that being said, the next reviews are going to be interesting after Half-Life, and Half-Life might be paused because there is a new Wolfenstein game coming out. I think it's coming out this year, or it could be next year, I forget. It's either this year or next year. If it's this year, then it's sometime, I think, in like November that it's coming out. I can't remember exactly, but if it is coming out this year and I'm not a year off here, I want to review that, because Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, looks really good. I'm just so happy that Wolfenstein has not fallen out of the creative consciousness, you know, because Wolfenstein 3D really was the first, as we would know it, first-person shooter. Yes, there were some other ones, but that's the one that we can really classify as a first-person shooter, and it's amazing that it's lasted this long. And then, of course, there's Call of Duty World War II, which, well, I definitely am a bigger fan of Call of Duty than I could be. I would actually prefer to review Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, way more than Call of Duty World War II, because no matter how good Call of Duty World War II is, Wolfenstein's going to be way better. Just saying. Let's see, what else we got? So, whenever those games come out, I want to review them, but I'm also planning on a Wild West month, where I review a number of Wild West games, Gun, Red Dead Redemption, maybe Red Dead Revolver, maybe, I'm not sure if I want to review that game or not, but I do definitely want to review Call of Juarez Gunslinger. So those are the ones I'm thinking of for Wild West month, and then I think I'm going to go ahead and do a Crisis month, where I review all the Crisis games. Just go right down the list of them, because there's 4 of them. There's Crisis 1, Crisis Warhead, Crisis 2, and 3. I have just recently finished Crisis 2 and 3. And I'll tell you this, they don't come anywhere close to Crisis 1 and Crisis Warhead. Like, not at all. But Crisis 2 isn't bad. They had to simplify it for the consoles. Crisis 3 is a little bit better, but once again, Crisis 3 was really pretty much just a cash-in. But, they want to make money, and I can't really fault them for that. The Crisis narrative is rather interesting, though. Crisis 1 starts up with you playing as Nomad, and then by Crisis 3, Prophet, who shows up in Crisis 1 as a somewhat prominent character, he becomes the main character, which is just kind of weird to me. But, well, the Crisis story after Crisis 1 just kind of got really convoluted. Eventually, I do want to read the Crisis 2 novelization called Crisis Legion. It sounds pretty good. But one thing that's kind of interesting about Crisis 1, and I intend to mention it in the review itself, is it had very varied gameplay. I mean, you had the first-person shooting, and it did that quite well. Then there was a tank battle. Then you went through this alien ship. Spoiler alert. If you've never heard of Crisis 2 or 3, you would be spoiled, no, wouldn't you? But anyway, you went through an alien ship. But the one thing I always found weird, though, about Crisis 1, at least, is the very fact that everyone just kind of ignores the obvious aliens that are showing up. Because, like, Nomad sees like an alien spacecraft or an alien fly by, and he's like, "What the fuck is that?" And like his commander's like, "Stay on mission, Nomad." But it's an alien. Shouldn't we worry about that more than the North Koreans? I mean, wouldn't the aliens be a bigger threat? And then the nano suit is really retconned in Crisis 2 and 3, like massively retconned, beyond belief because. I'm not, well, I'd have to spoil it anyway, but the nano suit in Crisis 1 is just like some super advanced piece of tech. And then in Crisis 2, it's like it's some sort of piece of alien tech. But this doesn't make a lot of sense, because then how did the North Koreans get some, even if they're cheap Chinese knockoffs? What are they, cheap Chinese aliens or something like that? That doesn't make any sense to me. Let's see, what else we got coming up. I'm also thinking of, at some indeterminate time, either next month or September, finally reviewing Frank Miller's RoboCop. I read that a number of years ago, and it's very interesting. I used to really like RoboCop 2, and I used to really like RoboCop 3. I liked them both more than RoboCop 1 back when I was a kid. Because when you hear RoboCop, you want to see RoboCop doing RoboCop things. But as I got older, I really started to dislike RoboCop 2, because RoboCop 2 is a very mean film. It's not very friendly to its characters, and it's just all kinds of annoying stuff going on in it. Like RoboCop getting dismantled again. And there's a few things that I just don't really buy in RoboCop 2. Like, would Murphy really let them just walk over him like that, since he is an indestructible cyborg? Then, of course, you got the special effects in RoboCop 2 aren't as good, mainly because they were too ambitious with it. The special effects in RoboCop 1 look so good because they kept it simple. RoboCop 3 is just crap all around. I think I liked it back in the day because I really liked the gun arm. Every kid liked the gun arm. And all the toys came with, well, not all of them, but most of the RoboCop figures came with the gun arm, and the gun arm is really cool. But by RoboCop 3, it was just cheap TV show garbage. RoboCop 1 stands the test of time because they actually had a real creative team working on that particular film. Everything in that movie works, and it works well. The fights are simple, but they do everything they need to do. They're not horribly outlandish, and they actually have a lot of they got a lot of character interaction. When they fight, there's a reason for them to fight, and that's just, you don't see that nearly as much as you'd like. It's not just some sort of special effects extravaganza. Instead, it's an actual fight, which is just excellent. Let's see. So after RoboCop, I do eventually want to review RoboCop versus the Terminator, both the game and the comic. I'm just not sure when that would be. But those are things I am definitely thinking of. I'm going to bring back some more book reviews when I get the time. But for right now, I'm just worried about getting the number 4 Mark 1 out. And, of course, the Quake 4 and Prey reviews. So, ultimately, there is one last thing to mention. If you want me to be able to do the Call of Duty World War II and Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, then I highly recommend supporting me on Patreon. Those games ain't cheap, and I'm nowhere near big enough to get press review copies, that's for sure. So ultimately, I am GeneralLotz, wishing you good Resident Evil Director's Cut, and good Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, or whatever makes you happy.